Co-creating impact. Hello there, I'm Lori with Co-creating Impact and itstimesunshine.com. This is my friend Christine. Hello, how are you?
Hey, I am fantastic. Thank you for having me on here, Lori. It is amazing to be on this co-creating podcast with you, and I'm so excited for your journey.
Thank you. I'm excited to hear all about you. I love having co-hosts on here and just chit-chatting and getting to know everyone. It's fascinating to me, the stories that we get to hear. So do tell about you and where you're coming from and what you got going on.
So I am on my TikTok journey started around Thanksgiving, and I've come into this wonderful community of a healing community I deal with trauma in my adult life. I am a recovering trauma abuse survivor, and about 2019, right before all of this started, I was very isolated in my life. And I didn't have anywhere to go to talk about and to finish out things that I was on my journey with, my trauma journey. So the thought came, and you know how these are great thoughts, right? In the middle of the dark night of the soul, you're like, oh yeah, hey, let's take on some more responsibility,
Right.
and start a trauma support group. And so I did, and it was started out as just mainly a specific area that I was living in at the time was very, very rural and didn't have a lot of communication and mental health services. And I was seeing such a need. And I started it, and it's just really taken off. Now it is, because of COVID, it's really pushed into markets that are everywhere, because I do a Zoom meeting 4 times a month. And yeah, and I do an hour of teaching on a specific topic that regards to trauma. And then the following hours, everybody's in community, getting to know each other, talking about how it relates to them and their story. And I feel that that is a gift that I've been given to give, is to provide a safe space for community to talk about the things that no one wants to talk about.
Yes,
And
and
that
the
are
safe
hard.
place is important. And tell us, is it on Facebook? Are you just on Facebook?
It is. The group, I use Facebook as my flagship page. It lets you know when the meetings are, and it is Trauma Matters at PTSD Warriors 1. And you can find it, it's got a black and white logo, but I post the dates on there regularly. I don't hold the meetings on there. We do a Zoom meeting, so that way I can invest that it is confidential and I know who is joining the meeting, because confidentiality and people that are hurting it's so important to the honesty that we're trying to recreate in our lives and our body. And that trust has to be established. So Trauma Matters is very important to me. And yeah, you can find that on Facebook, and send me a DM if you're interested.
Yes, and trauma does matter. And the thing is about it is that, we can be in our positivity overload during the day. And then sometimes we go home and cry ourselves to sleep. And I think that finding patterns in our lives that aren't working for us, things that we continue doing, like getting into maybe not the greatest relationships or the work situation or whatever it may be, it's because of that past trauma, we're not healing it. And I find that with my therapist, healing it and doing journaling work and talking with her is extremely important for me to be able to move forward in a healthy manner and to touch on that trauma. Sometimes touching on that trauma can create a place where I no longer behave in the way that has been affecting me in my past, whether it be, a poor work history or whatever it may be. And so a lot of people say, oh, why would you even bring up trauma? It's in the past. And this is why.
It's never really in the past, though. We can look at every response that we have, if we've grown up in trauma, to behave a certain way or to mask a certain way, like you were talking about the smiling and coming in with a pleasant. And since I've been on this journey, I've learned a lot about myself, also masking in other areas that have touched on informations that I've never had before. I'm finding out that I'm more neurodivergent in that area, and that there's a lot of overlap between my daily physical production as someone with a disability, multiple disabilities, with limited cognitive function, and with, all of these new things that I'm learning about myself, and sharing it in a way that makes sense in someone's everyday. And they go, oh, I do that too.
Mm-hmm.
That's me. I do that too. And that is the connectivity of humanness that we're all allowed to share in. And the one thing that is universal is suffering. And suffering is traumatic. And I think opening up a place for people to feel that they are valid, heard, and safe is just an amazing opportunity.
Yes, without judgment, without advice, just to be able to be heard. It's a huge, and without interruption a lot of times, because a lot of times people want to fix that. And I feel like once we're in that journey and in that path of healing, we can tiptoe into that. We don't have to, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. And we can just tiptoe into it and kind of work on ourselves. And that creates a brighter future and a place to bring more joy to ourselves, not that, oh, positive vibes only, and creating this comedic facade that we carry as humans.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mention that because, as someone who deals with disability daily and has limited access into the world, and deals with a lot of the physicalness of what trauma can cause, like chronic illness and pain, sufferings, and mental health issues, it's important to have that space so you can see it. You can see what you can be also, that it is a journey, not just a destination. And other people are in different parts of their destinations and their journeys.
Yes.
And along the way, we stand up and either go in front of you, stand with you, or go behind you. And it creates a trauma family and a trauma caravan up the mountains and down the valleys. And you're not alone when those big predators come and all of those, you're laying in the dark. It goes back to that primal instinct of being feared. And when we can erase fear, that's when we start to win. Mm-hmm. And that's when truth becomes our daily life.
Standing up within our fear. Yeah. Right. Standing up in our fear and working through our fear. It's like, we have this one life, and if we don't try and just go for it, I mean, it's not like starting this podcast. It's not like rocket scientists. We're not surgeons or anything like that. We're just having a conversation with each other, and it's moving, it's touching, to be able to talk to people in different situations. Now, are you able to share with us any part of your disabilities that you want to share, or anything?
Oh, absolutely. I actually, I make the joke sometimes because I feel like I should be a doctor with all the letters behind my name. Like it's a very long alphabet of repeating letters. Yeah. So when I was about 9, and I don't know, Lori, about your age, but I'm gonna tell you my age. I'm kind of a Challenger era baby. And
Challenger.
so,
what is that? Challenger era?
The Challenger, not to traumatize anybody, but if you watch the Challenger explode on the television when you were a child.
I have never heard that era. I'm Gen X.
That's us. We're Gen X.
What?
We're
Challenger?
Gen X.
Really?
You don't remember the Challenger?
I have not heard of, no, I remember the Challenger. I just haven't heard of it called as the Challenger era.
Well, it was our first collective real trauma as a live experience, is how I like to think about that. And it shaped the way that we interacted, much like other future events and the events that we're living in now. And when I was about 9, I realized that I did not speak in numbers. I couldn't get past math. I was a gifted kid. I had a lot of language skills, but math made no sense. You can just add purple aliens onto the roof, and that's how I would do. That's how I end up. And I go to disassociation station when somebody starts doing numbers. No one caught it, and we didn't have names for it. And now in the learning disability community, we call that dyscalculia, which is dyslexia for math. And there's a lot of people that have it and never were diagnosed. And I feel that just with that little small part of knowledge that I gained by reaching out and someone sharing that term with me, it empowered me to say, I want to know all the terms and all the things wrong with me while I'm here physically, because I've actually died twice.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So this is my third time.
Wow.
And I need to make this one a big one. This is the last go round it. So I want to know all the things as much as I can and balance all the things and heal myself. And learning dyscalculia was one of the first steps in my trauma journey, because it opened up all the things that I had to rethink and go back and see in front of me. And with that journey, I got to be able to look and see. The first time that I lost my eyesight was in the 6th grade. And that was optic neuritis. That was the first indicator of multiple sclerosis in my life.
Oh.
And it was at a high stress area and a high stress hormonal time. So I like to correspond that with the data that shows that traumatic events can interact with chronic illness.
I believe, yeah.
And then you can go from there. And so I have multiple things behind my name, and MS is one of them, irritable bowels, which is a chronic illness. I have trigeminal neuralgia. Try saying that one.
No, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, try that.
What is that?
Trigeminal neuralgia. It's actually on one of my TikTok videos, but it's called the suicide disorder, and that's not to trigger anyone. That it just means the pain is so great in my jaw from the nerves that I feel like I'm having root canals every day.
Oh, girl. Oh my God.
So on top of that, and now that, I've survived cancer, I've survived hysterectomies, I've survived surgeries. And at 30, I was diagnosed with MS. At 31, my husband died.
Oh.
Right. So that journey from 30 to 42, and today is actually the 12-year death anniversary. So I'm glad I get to share that with you.
Wow.
Because I'm here today. 12 years ago is when I lost all of this and started a brand new depth into who I needed to be on the flip side of this.
Your self-awareness journey. Now, Christine, we're running out of time, so I just want to really quickly, I'm so sorry for your loss and everything you've been through. You are such a warrior. But one more thing I want to ask is, you really are. Your strength it's just beautiful. What is beneath your smile? What resources and tools get you through all of this?
The one thing that really sticks with me is I have a great support system, and a support system that is gaining along the way, because after abuse, you have to rebuild your family. And so that rebuilding of my family is great. The one thing that works for me every day is to be present as much as possible. And that means showing up when it's ugly, showing up when it's hard, showing up when you're bleeding and you're sweating and you don't want to be there, but you pull yourself in and you feel the feelings and you name the feelings and you let them have a space and you do what you can. And if that's exhausting, that's fine. You can take a break. Totally fine, until you come back to it and you have an audience with you that can stand with you in strength and in truth.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. And the impact that you're making on others with the Trauma Matters Facebook group and being able to do these Zoom calls, peer related, right? It's all peers.
Yeah, all peer to peer. I'm not a therapist. I'm just merely a trauma survivor that is sharing, the sharing connection and connecting people to people. And I think that's important.
Thank you, Christine, for coming on here. I really appreciate you. You have made an impact on me and on so many others. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.
Brought to you by breaktherage.org and itstimesunshine.com, finding resources for health and mental wellness.